Hello, folks. Welcome to Kudlow. I'm Larry Kudlow. Well, there he goes again. President Biden campaigning yesterday in Wisconsin, in front of a very sparse crowd, I might add, and repeating his divisive claims that MAGA Republicans are a threat to American democracy. Now, he started this a week ago, calling Trump followers semi-fascists. That's about 74 million people who voted for Trump. He started this a week ago with two speeches that were uniformly panned by people and pundits alike. And then he walked it back last Friday, which was probably one of his brain glitches, because then he continued yesterday. But the whole thing is utter nonsense. In fact, as Dan Henninger wrote, the real problem is that Biden is a semi-socialist, or as Newt Gingrich and I would say, a big government socialist. Talk about democracy and freedom. Here's Mr. Biden weaponizing his Justice Department and FBI with an unprecedented raid on Mar-a-Lago for a bunch of documents that represent nothing more than some kind of disagreement between the National Archives and former President Trump. I'm no lawyer, but it looks like all that's necessary here is some kind of out-of-court settlement where Trump simply returns the documents if the archives can truly prove their case. The former president himself has already said he'll give them back whatever they want. But an unprecedented invasion of Trump's home and his wife's personal belongings was not only unprecedented, but completely uncalled for. Or, speaking of freedom, we learned that Biden's staff are on the phone to social media like Facebook, Google, Twitter, and others to remove criticisms of Biden policies. Or we now learn from Miranda Devine that the FBI have been sitting on Hunter Biden's laptop for over a year, again, telling Facebook and others not to print the New York Post revelation of incredible influence peddling. Turns out, nearly half the voters wouldn't have cast their ballot for Biden had they known about the story. And a Trump-baiting FBI agent squelched damaging interviews with Hunter Biden business associate Tony Bobulinski, just tried to erase him. Is that really freedom? Is that really democracy? You know, the reality is the far-left progressives lining up behind Biden do not believe in free speech. As Lance Morrow writes in the Wall Street Journal, they desire maximum total state or party control of all aspects of American life, including what people say and think. This is a classic leftist Soviet-style approach. Parents aren't allowed to attend school board meetings and guide public school curriculums. Instead, Merrick Garland labels them domestic terrorists. In Biden world, it's okay to continuously picket the homes of Supreme Court justices, even though that directly violates federal law. Nobody was ever prosecuted. This is not the first time Mr. Biden has lashed out at his enemies. And yes, he suffers most heavily from Trump derangement syndrome. He'll do anything to keep Trump off the ballot in 24. And he'll do anything to undermine Trump achievements. Remember, it was Biden who lied about Operation Warp Speed vaccinations. It was Biden who lied about high inflation. It was Biden who lied about the current economic slump. This is a guy who lied that the Afghanistan exit was a great success. This is a guy who inherited a non-inflationary boom and in a little over a year turned it into a high inflation bust. This is a guy who was using the massive executive branch regulatory authority to jam executive orders down our throats. This is a guy who is completely in denial that over 2 million illegals have crossed into the U.S. because of his open border policies. This is a guy who was waging war on fossil fuels. Indeed, who wants to end fossil fuels and who has no alternative vision for renewables. The result? Sky-high prices for oil and gasoline and natural gas and coal. This is a guy who wants a battery economy, but won't let the people mine the resources here in the U.S. at home to develop batteries. This is a guy whose ally, California Governor Gavin Newsom, has declared an end to gas-powered cars, but is now telling EV owners they can't charge their batteries. Whoops, no electricity. Whoops, fossil fuels produce over 80% of our electricity. Now, this is a guy who was in complete denial about the fentanyl epidemic that is sweeping the country, where nearly 1 million Americans have lost their lives. The precursor chemicals are batched up in China, sent to Mexico to manufacture, then shipped across the border, running north to Colorado and east through the American heartland and ultimately to Hunts Point, New York. That, according to a wonderful story in the New York Post. Biden never even mentions the scourge of fentanyl. He can't, because then he'd have to acknowledge the open border that he himself created. This is a guy in complete denial about the crime wave all across the country, left-wing prosecutors who refuse to charge criminals with bail and lets them back on the street for constant recidivism. This is a guy trying to buy an election with student loan cancellations. This is a guy beholden to the woke nonsense taught in schools by the teachers' unions, as well as doing everything he can to promote private and public dues-paying unionization, where the money is channeled to all manner of socialist policies that damage the economy and working folks' wages. This is also a guy who has led the charge from $1.5 trillion of new inflationary spending in just recent weeks, and who, if the Democrats keep control of Congress, would repeal the highly successful Trump tax cuts that benefited blue-collar and minority workers the most in 50 years. This, apparently, is Joe Biden's vision of democracy. This is Joe Biden's vision of America. It's a sad tale. And no amount of insults to over 74 million voters who cast their ballots for Donald Trump is going to bail Biden out. Biden's America is not the America we love. Biden's America is not the America that works. Biden's America is authoritarian, it is dictatorial, it is devoid of truth, and more divisive than anything we've ever seen. Joe Biden's America will not stand, simply because Americans truly, truly believe in freedom and democracy, real freedom and real democracy. All right, that's my riff tonight.